about each time 9/11 rolls around, your mind goes back to it. It's been 23 years, but I'm sure it's something you don't ever want to forget.
Yeah, they always use the term never forget. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to forget because I was there. I was helping out, doing the best I could with what I had. But you still got to, think about, why it happened and who sacrificed, to help us, be where we are today, to have the safest country that we could possibly live in.
Welcome to Six Figure Trucker, the podcast where we share advice on how to be successful in trucking and have fun while doing so. We'll share stories, news, and advice on how to earn six figures in trucking, and we'll speak to guys and gals that are already doing so. Let's get to the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. And we join you each and every week. It's a space where we elevate and celebrate the drivers that make Norton Transport such a company that it is, and we could not do it without the drivers. They are the backbone of our operation, and we're truly grateful for everything they do. And last week, you heard from Peter Rizzo, who is a non-CDL driver, box truck driver primarily. He drives other things, of course, but a non-CDL driver, and he was joining us from just outside of, just west of Kansas in Colorado. Peter, how are you now?
Doing well, thanks. I appreciate it.
Now, we were talking about your experiences as a driver. You've been doing this, just kind of recapping last week's episode. 8 years, 2 years with us, have incredible stats as we ran down your check-in percentage of 100%, 100% on time, month to date, and that, of course, we're in September now. 92% on time for the quarter, 89% completion rate. Let's kind of, we talked about this last week, but those have all got to be, points of pride for you.
Yes, I was pretty shocked when you told me about my stats, and I really appreciate that. And I'm gonna try to continue to keep those numbers where they are. Like I said, it's sometimes it can be difficult, with driving across the country and making different deliveries with the weather and whatnot. But just gotta stay focused and stay safe, and that's the most important thing.
Gotcha. Now, you live in North Carolina now, Greensboro, North Carolina, but that's not your home state. You came from New York City. Were you born and raised in New York City?
I was born and raised in Suffolk County, New York, which is on Long Island. That's where I grew up. And then, I went to school upstate New York, college, played some basketball growing up, pretty tall. So, sometimes fitting into these trucks is rather tough, but but I basically grew up on Long Island, and that's basically where I grew up.
Gotcha. How tall are you, Peter?
6'8".
Oh my, yeah. Folding into some of those box trucks probably is kind of difficult.
Yeah, it is. It's tough, but come to the territory.
Now, you were born and raised in Long Island, but you'd shared with us before we got on the air, you were a member of the New York City Police Department at a time which was everybody remembers, which we're recording now here on September 14th, but 23 years ago, this past Wednesday, or 2 weeks ago Wednesday, 9/11. Tell us where you were and how it was for you professionally and what was going on at 9/11 23 years ago.
Yeah, sure. So all my life I've been surrounded by police officers and firemen and EMS workers. My father was ill growing up, and I took care of him a lot. So unfortunately, a lot of times he had to go to the hospital. So I was always around, like I said, first responders ever since I can remember, probably 3 or 4 years old. So being around that, I always wanted to get involved in firefighting and police. So I wound up taking the police route. So I graduated college. Was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, so I took the step and moved towards law enforcement. I was working as a freelance graphic designer for a movie and commercial studio, and I was driving through New York City with my colleague. This is probably early 2000, and I wound up pulling up next to a New York City Police Department recruiting van at a traffic light by Central Park.
Mm-hmm.
So I leaned out the window and I said, "Hey," so I said, "How's the job?" And she said, "Oh, it's it's rewarding. It's a lot of good experiences. You'll have a good time. You'll learn a lot, and it's a great 20-year journey." And I said, "All right, give me an application." So she reached down and grabbed an application and handed it to me right across into the van that I was driving. And filled out that application, sent it in. Got hired by the New York City Police Department. In I think it was April of 2001, and then in July 2001, it was my first day after going through all the background checks and paperwork. My first day was I think it was July 7th, 2001, and then that's when I entered the New York City Police Department.
I got you. So you had to go through an academy, I would presume.
Yes, correct. So started the police academy, and on September 10th, 2001, I worked till 2 a.m, which is you go to school, every other week you go to school in the morning, in the morning hours, then you switch to the night hours so you get used to the schedules. So I wound up getting home 2:30 in the morning, I believe it was, on September 11th. And just fell asleep. I was so tired, and then I got a knock on my bedroom door from my father, and he woke me up and said, "Hey, a plane just hit the Twin Towers." So, I was groggy. I woke up. I said, "Hey, what?" I asked him again. I said, "Yeah." He said, "A plane hit the Twin Towers." So I got up, went over to the TV, and I saw it. I saw the building on fire, and started getting dressed after I just went to sleep not too long prior to that. I called up my travel mate. And I said, "We got to go into the city. They're asking everybody to come in." And as that happened, I saw the second plane on the news. I was watching it. It's the towers. So, probably within an hour and 15 minutes, we were on the road heading into New York City.
What was your mindset at that time when it happened? I mean, everybody who remembers it all had different recollections and different mindsets when it happened, depending upon when you were right there.
Yeah, I mean, we were in, obviously we were in the police academy. We're rookies. We the police mentality going through our head, like, what are we supposed to do? Where are we supposed to go? So we called our command. The command had a rally point for us. We all met at the rally point, and we sat there for a few hours until we were dispatched to where we had to go. And it was interesting. We were working 12 to 15-hour shifts at some point, and as police academy recruits, we didn't have all our tools. We didn't even have our badges. We didn't have our guns. We didn't have our body armor. We just put out onto the street to help as best as we can because the city was in chaos. And with losing all the firefighters and police officers and the first responders, it was just chaos. So it was very, very interesting to be thrown into that situation. You're thrown into the fire right away. So that's what we were up against.
That's what I was just thinking. That had to be incredible on-the-job training to fall into something like that, fresh out of the academy.
Yep. Yeah, it was. It was interesting. Unfortunately, a lot of people lost their lives in the towers, and I was involved with helping with some of the families, some of the victims that were deceased. And it was pretty intense, and it's something I think about. When 9/11 approaches, it brings back some of the memories of some of the jobs that I had to do, for those first few months of September, October, and it was rough. It was pretty rough.
I can imagine. We certainly thank you across the country. I mean, for the service that the men and women in blue in New York City did, because it was a tall task to have to get the call for. And as we're talking now, we've just passed 9/11 just a few days ago. You were talking about each time 9/11 rolls around, your mind goes back to it. What's it like now? I mean, it's been 23 years, but I'm sure it's something you don't ever want to forget.
Yeah, they always use the term "never forget." I mean, obviously, I'm not going to forget because I was there. I was helping out, doing the best I could with what I had, and with all my colleagues and my brothers and sisters. It's a lot different now than it was. Fresh out of the gate. The first couple years after. But you still got to, think about, why it happened and who sacrificed, to help us, be where we are today, and to have to have the safest country that we could possibly live in. You understand what I'm saying? So
Oh, yeah.
it's you have to have some kind of pride, patriotism in this country to stay focused and vigilant, especially what's going on today in the world. You got to stay focused, and you just got to be aware of your surroundings, and just keep, just know that there's people out there that are trying to do their jobs and to try to keep everybody safe.
How did it change you personally and professionally?
The thing about the police department is you learn, especially in New York City, you learn very, very fast. You learn very quick. And if you don't learn fast, you're just going to get yourself in a situation that's not going to be pretty. So it helped me to realize, working from the streets and working in a civil, catastrophe, it really makes you hone in on your priorities. Right. And to try to push those, it's like a learning instrument, right? If you stick your hand in the fire, it's going to burn. You're not going to do it again after that. Right. So I think passing on everything that you've learned to, your friends, your family, and people that ask questions about that day and about what's happening, since I think that's the best way for me to move forward. And, I'm an open book when it comes to 9/11. If anybody has a question for me, I always answer it. And if they have, that's just the best way I move forward through it. So, so today it's definitely, it makes you sharper. In my perspective, it makes you sharper, and it makes you, understand what's around you. So that's something I took away from it.
What are some of the most common questions you get from people in the city, and B, people outside the city about 9/11, even 23 years later?
It's difficult because I'm not out there saying, hey, I'm in 9/11. Hey, it was I'm not that type of guy. So it's if people that know me and I have stuff like I carry around with me on my bag that, shows that I was a police officer and stuff like that. That's just to keep, to support the cause. But a lot of times people will ask me what it was like. For me, the first day was a little unorganized because we didn't really know what to do because it was something that never happened before. So the second day, it was more controlled. The third day, everybody was locked in on what our responsibilities were. And then after that, it was, pretty much, you got to go to work, right? You got to take care of business. So, the questions and comments that I usually get are, what was it like, being down there, what did I see? What did I do? Am I scared of flying? I'll get that a lot because I fly all the time everywhere. I'm flying 2-3 times a week. Sometimes I get questions like that. Are you afraid to fly after that? Were you? And I'm like, no, it's not about being afraid to fly. It's just the security of everything. You just want to be secure. And that's the most important thing. I guess security questions are a lot of the questions that I get. You think we're safe now? Do you think, it can happen again? And, I try to tell people, listen, anything can happen. You're only, security, you could be as safe as you want to be, but there's always somebody out there that's going to try to get around it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I try to be optimistic every time somebody asks me a question,
You're listening to Peter Rizzo here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Peter, if you're just joining us, is one of our non-CDL drivers, a very good one, has great statistics, and he's been kind enough to share his time. He was on the right on the ground as a New York City police officer during 9/11 23 years ago. And Peter, do you were talking about sense of security. I guess I don't want to put words in your mouth, but from what we've learned from you, I guess do you fall into the category that you can't live in fear?
100%. You got to just live. You got to live day by day. You can't worry about, there's like you said earlier, peeling back the onion. If you allow, certain events and certain people to get under your skin and to make you nervous, then you really need to step back and take a deep breath and evaluate your situation, because you can't live in fear. You got to just live your day, just go through your day as if you were the day before. And, if it's going to come at you, it's going to come at you. But when it does come, just make sure you're ready for it, and you have the right circle of friends and family to help you deal with it. That's how I look at it. Just go through your day as you always would.
Having gone through that and experiencing that and coming out on the other side, does it help you, or does it give you some skills to fall back on as a Driveaway driver?
Yes, it does. It does give you a little bit of skill. Like I said, always situational awareness. I always keep my eyes open around me. Obviously when you're driving, you're supposed to do that anyway, but because I'm, in the police department, they always train you to watch the person's hands, right? The hands are what you have to watch, because that's where the problems start. Mm-hmm. So, even today, after 23 years, I still, after I left the police department, I still watch people's hands. When I go to the airports, I'm always watching hands. When I'm on the bus, I'm always watching hands. When I'm eating lunch or eating dinner and I'm around a bunch of people, I'm always watching hands. I'm not doing it because it's just out of habit.
Right.
I can remember when I was dating somebody during my police days, I'd be always staring around, looking around, and then she would always say, "What are you looking at? What are you?" I'm looking at everybody's hands. I'm staring at everybody's hands. I'm not staring at anybody else. I'm looking at their hands, and they're like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what we do. It's embedded in our minds." The first day, the first week in the police academy, they always tell you to watch the person's hands, So it's kind of, it's got its little quirks, and that's just how it is.
I got you. 23 years after the fact, after the date, that dark chapter in our history as a country, do you stay in touch with people on the force, fire department, police department, first responders? Do you still stay in touch with them?
Yes, I do. I stay in touch with a lot of people. A lot of times on Facebook, obviously. I was a volunteer fireman also, and an EMS worker too. So I have a pretty strong friendship back home, and I still keep in contact with them as well.
How are they doing?
Oh, they're fine. I mean, our particular firehouse on Long Island, which was volunteer, we lost five firefighters in 9/11 from my specific firehouse. So it's there's a lot of real close knit group of firefighters and EMS workers at that particular firehouse. So it's the Lakeland Fire Rescue out on Long Island. So I joined that department after 9/11. So it was pretty. You gotta keep up the work of your colleagues that you lost. You know what I mean? So you have to really focus, and it's different. It's different, but everybody's tight, and every year everybody celebrates together, and remembers firefighters and the police officers, and it's a good community. Yeah, it's a real good community.
That's a bond that will never be broken.
Correct. And I don't talk about it much, so I appreciate you asking me about it. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate greatly you being on the ground there, and the service that you provided, and I'm sure you guys worked incredibly long hours during that time.
Oh yeah, a lot of hours.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Peter Rizzo here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Peter, thank you so much for sharing that time and your experience and how it's changed and shaped you and made you one of our absolute top drivers. We certainly appreciate you.
Appreciate it, and thanks again for having me. I really enjoyed it.
All right, Peter Rizzo on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Peter, be safe out there on the road. We know you are.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Six Figure Trucker is brought to you by Norton Transport. Norton Transport is a drive-away trucking company that customers can rely on. It offers excellent independent contract driving opportunities to professional, courteous, and qualified drivers that can provide the kind of service we deliver. If you're interested in learning more about Norton or just want to subscribe to the show, check out 6-figuretrucker.com. That's 6-figuretrucker.com.